Hey everyone, Kevin here, and welcome back to my channel. So, teachers often talk about how we have to furnish our classrooms with our own money, and how that's a major reason why we feel like we not only don't get paid enough, but how the little money we do get often goes right back to our classrooms instead of ourselves. And teachers in the US spend on average of between $500 and $1,000 of their own money every year on classroom supplies due to inadequate school budgets. Actually, over 90% of teachers use their personal funds for essential items like pencils, cleaning supplies, and books. And as I was talking with a couple of former teachers on LinkedIn about that, we all collectively realized that no teachers ever really show what this process looks like. And no, I'm not referring to, strapping a GoPro on us and watching us walk around Target, Staples, and Walmart buying things for our classrooms. I mean, we don't show the before and after photos of what classrooms look like when they're given to us versus what they look like after we've populated them with things we've bought and paid for with our already small salaries. Which gave me the perfect idea for a video showing that very thing to people who really don't understand how the costs add up for educators these days. Now, I don't have before and after photos for absolutely every classroom I've had over the years or every permutation of how I move things around over time, but I can show a few examples from multiple rooms and angles that will give you an idea of this process. And please keep in mind, my classrooms were still pretty tame compared to what most educators do, especially at the elementary level. So here we go. Let's start with a photo of my classroom before my first year of teaching even started and before I ever got a single penny for being an educator. This is how my classroom was given to me. It looked like a disaster zone with bent desks piled on top of one another, wires coming out of the walls, holes in the ceiling, and a terribly musty smell that was reminiscent of wet dog hair. Oh, yeah, and I vividly remember cutting my hand pretty badly on that desk right there, not long after I started trying to get the place in order. I actually started my first day of teaching with a bandage on my hand because of that. And as you can see, it was awful. My first classroom was not only in terribly poor condition, but didn't even have enough desks for half of the classroom, much less anything to fill it up with. It wasn't for another couple of months that I was finally given a computer, monitor, printer, and document camera, along with new carpet and desks installed, because I'm pretty sure the desks I had were made in the 1980s and the carpets were stained and probably 30 years old too. Oh, and that smartboard never once worked, by the way, and basically just became a screen for my overhead projector since they didn't want to pay to fix it. But literally everything else in these photos was bought and paid for by me. And it was incredibly expensive for someone who still hadn't even gotten his first paycheck. All of the supplies were hundreds of dollars: flags, maps, posters, books, projector charts, file organizers, fridge and microwave, and even the freaking construction paper used by kids, along with the tape I used to put lines on the whiteboard, were all mine. I'm not even including everything else that is stored in the cabinets on the other side of the room either. All in all, outfitting that room probably cost a few $1,000s that I was never reimbursed for, nor did anyone bat an eyelash at me spending that much. Every person outside of education I mentioned this to was like, well, yeah, you signed up for that. Even though I didn't, I shouldn't have to furnish a classroom with the most basic of supplies and still get paid a poverty wage afterwards. The only supplies that the school gave me for free was freaking printer paper. And for teachers with student loans they want to start paying off as well, this serves to only set them back even farther with those payments and contributes to what I've always called the enforced cycle of debt that schools want to keep teachers in so they don't move around or look for different jobs and burden them with having to hire someone new. Now, I did eventually move into an actual classroom in that school year. All of the same stuff, so not much new to add in these photos, except for one thing I wanted to point out. This freaking pole in the ceiling. The entire wing of 8 classrooms I was in had these hookups for a projector, but the school refused to pay the money to attach our projectors to them. It's actually ironic that we're pushing technology in the classroom more every single year, but are also so stingy about paying to maintain it or use it at the same time. But to fix that issue, I had to again spend my own money, about $300, I believe, to buy a mount for the projector and literally bribe the crap out of the IT people on campus with my baked goods to come in and attach it for me on their own time. I still remember my department chair coming in while they were installing it and asking how in the world I got them to do that because even he couldn't convince them to. And when I left that school, I unscrewed it and took that mount with me because I was feeling petty that day. I'm pretty sure it's still in my garage somewhere too, actually. But I'll end though with examining my last classroom now, the one I was in when I quit the profession. This is again the way the room looked when it was given to me, which was plain, boring, and the desks were still outfitted for COVID restrictions on top of all of that. And let me tell you, getting those face shields off the desk were actually really annoying to do since they were glued down. But eventually I got the room organized again with stuff I paid for. Everything down to the paper and borders on the bulletin boards and dictionaries on the bookshelf were money out of my pocket. Oh, and in case you were wondering, that's about where the second fire started in my room that convinced me to finally quit teaching, just in case you were curious. But as you can see, the initial outlay was thousands of dollars and then a consistent few hundred or thousand every year after that for things that should have been provided to me and to all teachers. And considering how much money we pay in taxes to support our schools, you'd think they could afford to supply basic things like poster paper, but you'd be wrong. And like I said earlier, my classroom was pretty simple and not as colorful or fun as many teachers make their spaces, especially at the elementary grades. And they consistently spend far more money every year than those of us at the secondary level. So I guess my overall point is that having to pay for our own basic supplies is yet another example of how little teachers are supported and how much these expenses add up every single year. They really do eat away at our already meager salaries. And the pay isn't even the central problem, although it's a big part of it. It's more that teachers are tired of shouldering all of the responsibility for the classroom, from having students reach state benchmarks all the way down to buying our own freaking paper clips, which is only made worse by all of the apathy and violence educators have to put up with on a daily basis as it is. Yes, those expenses do slow down over time, but early on, that money outlay is crippling to newer teachers and makes them even more likely to burn out and leave education when combined with all of those other problems. I can guarantee no office job out there would expect such things of their workers, so why should teachers put up with this anymore? Importantly, I'm not saying that everything we could ever want should be given to us for free on a silver platter, but rather that at least basic supplies and things that allow us to get started are provided to newer teachers so they don't have to bankrupt themselves just to do a job that already doesn't pay well. It's a simple and, kind of easy thing to do to start improving the system and making teachers feel valued rather than exploited. So, if a teacher asks you to buy some colored folders and pencils for their class, please just buy your kids some damn colored folders and pencils so we don't have to. Please. Well, guys, thanks for watching, and I hope these images helped at least start to articulate the problem and expenses necessary to at least outfit classrooms on a basic level and how that financial responsibility is being dumped onto educators rather than being taken care of by most administrators and even parents. Every little bit helps and lessens the burden teachers have, even if it is just a tiny amount. But if you haven't already done so, please consider liking and subscribing to stay up to date with all of my content, and trust me when I say that it really helps the channel grow. For now though, I've been Kevin, and I will see you in the next video.